Understanding the depths of human nature is like navigating an ocean. Much of what stirs within us lies beneath the surface of consciousness, shaping our thoughts and feelings without our direct awareness. True self-awareness demands delving into this hidden realm, the subconscious, where the soul's impulses reside. These impulses are akin to currents in the ocean's depths, only surfacing as noticeable waves in our consciousness. However, our everyday awareness only catches these waves, not the powerful currents below. Simply focusing on what appears in our conscious thoughts won't unveil the truth. The depths of our soul often differ vastly from what emerges in our daily thoughts. Today, let's explore this aspect of human nature to grasp how these subconscious impulses truly operate. We can use imagery to explain, considering the invisible parts of ourselves, the ego, the astral body, and the etheric body that work through the visible aspects. The way the hidden influences the apparent is intricate and multifaceted. By unraveling this complex process piece by piece, we can slowly build an understanding of the human being. Even then, our knowledge will remain incomplete since human nature is infinitely intricate. Nonetheless, this exploration lays the groundwork for understanding ourselves better. Let's explore how different parts of a person's nature show up in their physical life using more visual or formal representations. Imagine a human being before us. To explain this, let's begin with what we're most aware of in earthly existence, the ego. Using pictures to explain can sometimes create confusion, as what's said initially might seem at odds with later explanations. However, if you follow closely, you'll realize that these contradictions are not real. They simply appear that way at first glance. Let's delve into the ego within us, the core component often referred to as our sense of self. This part of us isn't something we can touch or see. It's beyond our physical senses, existing in a realm beyond the material. However, it works through our physical being, primarily using the nervous system connected to the solar plexus. Imagine a diagram representing this nervous system, highlighted in a darker shade, C diagram. This might seem disconnected from what we conventionally think of as nerve activity, yet this is where the genuine ego is active, despite the fact that in our spiritual understanding, we tend to locate the ego's center in the head. The point where we experience our ego isn't necessarily where it primarily operates within us, as the ego, being super-sensible, doesn't align precisely with our physical experiences. When we say the ego works through the solar plexus, it implies that the ego itself has a limited consciousness. The thoughts we associate with our ego aren't the entirety of the ego. Instead, the genuine ego acts as a formative force within our entire organism, predominantly through the solar plexus, or more accurately, the network of ganglia within it. This process functions largely in our subconscious and influences various bodily functions, even participating in the blood circulation. The way the ego operates throughout the body might seem widespread, yet its primary center of influence, significantly impacting the formative aspects of our body, remains within the intricate network of ganglia in the solar plexus. It's crucial to differentiate between the ego's influence on the body's formative forces and its expression through the circulation of blood. Understanding the complexity of the human being requires careful consideration of these distinct aspects of the ego's influence and expression within us. Understanding the connection between the ego and the system of ganglia, particularly their anchoring within the abdominal organs, reveals an essential aspect of human existence. In a state of normal health, the ego is tethered, so to speak, to the solar plexus and its interconnected structures. It's like being tied or bound by the solar plexus. What does this signify? The human ego, bestowed upon us during earthly evolution by the spirits of form, encountered temptation from Lucifer. As a result, the ego, as it exists within us now, has been influenced by these Luciferic forces, potentially carrying within it tendencies toward evil. It's crucial to acknowledge this reality. The ego isn't inherently evil, but has been tainted by these Luciferic forces, distorting its thought processes toward negativity. Since receiving the ego, humans have had the capacity to think. However, Due to the Luciferic influence, these thoughts are not purely good, they are tainted by this influence. This tainted nature of the ego leads to self-centered, egotistical thoughts, distorting the perception of reality. This condition stems from the infection by Lucifer. Now, the system of ganglia, particularly the solar plexus, originates from humanity's past during the moon incarnation of Earth. It serves as a kind of containment for the ego, almost like a house where it resides within us. In a way, it's like the ego is held captive there. This dynamic creates an intriguing situation. Despite the ego's inclination toward negative behavior due to its Luciferic influence, leaning toward deceit and self-centeredness, it is held in check by the abdominal nervous system. This nervous system, stemming from ancient cosmic forces from Saturn, Sun and Moon stages, acts as a regulatory force, compelling the ego to not manifest as a malevolent entity. Therefore, the way we contain and control our ego within us is through its tethering by the abdominal organs, preventing it from exhibiting its darker inclinations. Let's consider a scenario where the abdominal organs aren't in a healthy state or aren't functioning normally. When these organs deviate from their normal state, they might not fully embrace what spiritually belongs to them. In such cases, the ego might experience a certain degree of freedom in its activity. This freedom, arising from physical hyperactivity or dysfunction, can lead the ego to be more unrestrained in its interaction with the external world, instead of remaining bound within. When the ego behaves with such liberated spontaneity, it reflects a psychological imbalance, showcasing characteristics associated with the ego influenced by Lucifer. These traits, such as self-centeredness and deceitfulness, become apparent. It's essential to note that understanding this doesn't require one to adopt a purely materialistic viewpoint. The relationship between the spiritual, represented by the ego, and its connection to physical organs during life between birth and death can be seen differently from a non-materialistic standpoint as well. However, this kind of liberation of the ego isn't always indicative of psychological illness. Another situation arises when the normal functioning of the abdominal organs is switched off rather than being in a state of illness. This happens frequently in hypnotic states. In these cases, the system of ganglia in the abdomen, which typically regulates the ego's behavior, enters a state where it can't control the ego effectively. Consequently, the ego becomes more involved with its environment, perceiving distant processes in space and time that are usually beyond its normal perception. Understanding this relationship between hypnotic states, where the usual functions of the ganglia system are subdued, and certain forms of madness, where dysfunction or deformation in abdominal organs disrupts this control, is crucial. When the ego experiences this freedom, detached from the physical body but connected to spiritual forces in its surroundings, it manifests as a pathological state, akin to certain forms of madness. This state is marked by characteristics like spitefulness, deceit, and a desire to cast others into the shadows, a manifestation of the ego's Luciferic infection. Therefore, these forms of madness often display traits linked to this state of ego liberation. Understanding how a person's soul constitution aligns with the structure that encapsulates their ego sheds light on an intriguing comparison between creatures like lions and bulls or oxen. While a lion possesses a group ego and a human holds an individual one, we can draw parallels between them. Consider the lion's nature, undeniably carnivorous, compared to the herbivorous nature of the ox. This comparison unveils a fundamental difference. The lion's group ego experiences less restriction, allowing its ego to roam more freely within its environment, whereas the group ego in the vegetarian ox is more restrained and contained within itself. This sheds light on why adopting a vegetarian diet, if one chooses, could resonate with human beings. How so? A vegetarian diet tends to enhance the capacity of abdominal organs to bind the ego more tightly. Paradoxically, this can lead to a person becoming gentler. Their darker inclinations are more internalized, less manifest in their external behaviors. It's important, however, not to delude oneself into thinking that these darker inclinations don't exist within. They do, but they are more contained within the individual. Imagine an experiment comparing the behavior of hungry carnivores and hungry vegetarians. Hunger tends to lessen inhibitions. In this scenario, hungry vegetarians, accustomed to controlling themselves due to their dietary choices, might display more aggressive behavior compared to hungry carnivores. Hunger alters the functioning of abdominal organs, weakening their ability to restrain the ego, especially in the vegetarian state. This doesn't imply an absolute truth, as carnivores inherently bind the ego less strongly than vegetarians. However, the hungry vegetarian, when compared to their satiated state, might exhibit more ferocity than the hungry carnivore in contrast to its satiated state. Human nature is undeniably intricate, and a valuable approach to gain genuine self-understanding involves observing the interplay between the spiritual and physical aspects. However, it's essential for vegetarians to maintain proper nutrition. If they become undernourished, they risk harming themselves. In such cases, the chains binding their inner demons, representing traits like deceitfulness and cunning, might weaken. Consequently, these darker inclinations may spill into the environment, causing disturbances either for others or within themselves. When undernourished, vegetarians might struggle to manage themselves. They might exhibit a relentless inclination to showcase negative qualities associated with the ego, or, if well-mannered, might internalize these traits, leading to inner conflicts and dissatisfaction. Recognizing these dynamics is crucial. Just as the ego finds its anchor in the system of ganglia, the astral body is linked to processes associated with the nervous system of the spinal cord. This network, governing reflex actions and regulating various bodily functions, serves as a pivotal point of contact for the astral body. It's crucial to differentiate it from the cerebral nervous system. It pertains specifically to the spinal cord and its functions. The astral body, bound to these spinal processes, carries attributes received during ancient moon times, incorporating Luciferic and Ahrimanic elements, though weaker than those present in the ego. Contemplating how this Luciferic infection seeped into the astral body involves understanding the separation of the moon from evolution, as discussed in my book, Occult Science. This infection's impact links to certain hypnotic characteristics in humans, associated with higher experiences related to the chest organs rather than the abdominal ones. Disturbances in this binding of the astral body can result in psychological disorders. Just as the release of the ego leads to characteristics like deceitfulness and self-centeredness, the release of the astral body leads to a lack of coherent thought, manic states, withdrawal, or depression. Hypnotic or mesmeric interventions can also trigger these conditions, suppressing the normal physical function of these organs without causing illness in them. These disturbances, whether triggered by natural causes or external interventions, reveal the delicate balance between the astral body and its physical connections. Much of human nature needs to be restrained, as there's an inherent connection to aspects considered devilish. Our decency largely stems from divine spiritual forces that evolved through ancient cosmic periods. Despite this, our inclination toward goodness isn't innate. We encounter numerous temptations that challenge our decency. Many negative traits and emotional states originate from the confrontation with our inner demons. When what's bound becomes unbound, the demonic elements within us can surface. The balance between what's bound and what's freed extends beyond our physical life. We'll delve into how these bound aspects shift during the period between death and rebirth in another discussion. Yet it's essential to acknowledge the significance of our physical bodies as containers for these higher components. Without them, our higher aspects would lack containment. Even after shedding the physical body, these higher components still retain some form of restraint. Similarly, just as the astral body is tethered by the spinal cord system and its organic connections, the etheric body finds its point of contact through the cerebral system. The head serves as a prison for the etheric body. Disorders such as madness or hypnotic conditions arise when the physical body is compromised, allowing the etheric body to break free from its containment. When unrestrained, the etheric body tends to replicate itself, losing its sense of identity and intermingling with the external world, carrying its life force into other realms. This elucidates the conditions arising when the keeper of the prison, so to speak, releases the etheric body. 3 possibilities exist regarding psychological illness and the departure from the physical body. These variations play a crucial role, especially in the context of initiation, although their consideration differs significantly. The discussion so far has centered on the liberation brought about by illness, where the physical organs lose their capability to contain the higher components. When brain activity diminishes due to somnolence, the etheric body becomes free, inducing a state of drowsiness. However, if the brain becomes defective, the containment of the etheric body within the physical structure fails, allowing it to embark on its own ventures, attempting to lead a disorganized existence by merging with the external world. Therefore, it's evident that psychological illnesses largely stem from a release of the higher components from their physical moorings during life between birth and death. When the etheric body is freed, it predominantly exhibits ahrimanic attributes. Traits like envy, jealousy, and avarice are pathologically heightened, typically accompanied by an expansion into the environment, a form of uncontrolled release. To understand this, consider that the ego's focal point is primarily the ganglia system and its connections. Meanwhile, the astral body is linked to the spinal system alongside the ganglia system. Additionally, the etheric body is connected with the cerebral system, encompassing both the spinal and ganglia systems. This intricate connection implies that the ganglia system influences processes within the brain, especially those involving subconscious organic functions. Therefore, even when a brain-related illness originates from the ganglia system, it might lead to the liberation of the etheric body. This complexity underscores the intricacies involved. Contemporary psychiatry lacks the means to differentiate between these 3 types of soul sickness. Its advancements will materialize when it distinguishes between psychological abnormalities arising from the liberation of the etheric body, astral body, or ego. Such differentiation will significantly aid in assessing and distinguishing various symptoms of psychological abnormalities, providing a valuable framework for evaluation. From this intricate exploration, it's evident that true self-knowledge can only emerge from a profound understanding of the complexity inherent in human beings. Knowledge itself can harbour discomfort, yet it stands as the most solemn pursuit in human life. A person well versed in the intricacies of human nature, particularly if inclined towards an objective, non-egoistic understanding, possesses a vital healing force within this knowledge. However, this healing potential remains largely untapped if one remains entrenched in subjective tendencies, failing to transcend them. This presents a significant challenge for a movement like ours. While it's essential to earnestly pursue higher knowledge, not everyone who joins such a movement is inherently inclined to embrace this knowledge objectively and with utmost seriousness. This knowledge enriches personal lives only when individuals liberate themselves from constant introspection, dwelling on personal feelings and states of mind. Instead, focusing on broader concerns that pertain to humanity as a whole, transcending personal preoccupations, is where this knowledge truly becomes a healing force. It's crucial to recognize that immersing oneself solely in personal contemplation impedes the transformative potential of knowledge. The more one directs attention away from personal concerns towards broader, universal human affairs, the more profound the healing power of knowledge becomes. I'd hope you could believe in this perspective. Often, within movements like ours, we witness the contrary, individuals seeking solace and reassurance, understandably, yet failing to genuinely detach from self-centered thoughts and concerns. If one doesn't earnestly endeavor to transcend personal preoccupations, knowledge cannot manifest its true essence. The genuine interest in knowledge stems not from a solely personal standpoint, but from a broader, collective human perspective. When personal considerations diminish, the healing potential of knowledge regarding the deeper facets of the world can truly flourish. In our exploration, we're reaching a point where we must grasp how specific impulses within human nature intertwine with the liberation of the soul and spiritual essence, whether in states induced by hypnosis, mesmerism, or in cases of madness. Liberation always correlates with a merging into the spiritual realm. This merging, however, carries a sense of deep pleasure, genuine pleasure, both direct and indirect. When something becomes unbound, be it the etheric or astral body or the ego, it pours itself in a way into the spiritual realm. This pouring forth is undeniably linked to inner feelings of profound bliss. Individuals with psychological abnormalities often find a certain satisfaction in their abnormal psychological states, making them reluctant to relinquish these states. Throughout history, those dedicated to healing such abnormalities have noted a consistent phenomenon. As patients approach recovery, they experience a realization that they can no longer freely merge with their spiritual environment. Consequently, they lose a sense of pleasurable bliss. At this point, they may even develop animosity towards the doctor or healer facilitating their recovery. Unlike individuals without psychological illness who express gratitude to their healers, those grappling with such conditions react inversely. This documented experience in medical literature portrays a patient's aversion towards their healer when the process of healing disrupts their subconscious yearning, despite conscious denial of such desires. These insights delve deeply into the mysteries of the human soul. They reveal that the ego, etheric or astral bodies, having laboured through their physical tools and subsequently experiencing freedom, yet still retaining their physical imprints, can manifest certain abilities more effortlessly than when constrained by diseased organs. Hence, individuals with cyclical psychological aberrations often feel enhanced capacities upon departing their physical bodies during such periods. This heightened sense of accomplishment provides them with immense satisfaction. Upon re-entering their physical bodies, they may retain a degree of awareness of their experiences, sometimes offering remarkable clarity about themselves and their encounters. In the early 19th century, a renowned physician named Willis successfully cured a person suffering from madness, restoring their ability to think sensibly about themselves. This individual, intelligent and reflective, penned an insightful account of their experience with madness. Considering what we've discussed, his narrative becomes clearer. His illness involved the liberation of all three higher components. He wrote, "I expected my fits of insanity with impatience, with bliss. It's crucial to remember that he awaited these moments of departure from his body with eagerness, foreseeing a certain kind of bliss. Everything appeared easy to me. No obstacles presented themselves either in theory or practice. My memory acquired all of a sudden a singular degree of perfection. From this, it's deducible that the patient might have suffered from severe constipation, an abdominal condition that dulled his memory. As soon as his ego disentangled itself, his memory seemed to be restored to its former capacity. Long passages of Latin authors occurred to my mind. In general, I have great difficulty in finding rhythmical terminations, but then I could write verses with as great facility as prose." This detailed self-description offers a glimpse into how the patient perceived himself. Strikingly, he seemed to pursue inducing an abnormal state, though this isn't something one can actually induce. Nevertheless, he welcomed its arrival because it brought him a form of pleasurable enjoyment. The primary challenge in cases of psychological abnormalities lies in guiding patients from a contented to an uncontented state of mind, leading them from happiness to despair. On the surface, patients may express a desire for healing, yet subconsciously they resist it. They might visit a doctor and request a cure, but in reality, deep within their subconscious, they resist it. The liberated components strongly oppose being separated from the bliss they experience upon liberation. This perspective allows us to acknowledge the foundational elements of our physical existence without succumbing to materialistic beliefs. Consider an individual exhibiting a degree of stupidity greater than what's immediately evident in external life. Such instances exist. Stupidity serves as merely one stage on the path to a particular abnormality of the soul, imbecility. It's plausible that this condition arises when the otherwise constrained etheric body is emancipated, because the brain is excessively compact, hindering its ability to work with sufficient fluidity. In some cases, if this person were to, let's say, accidentally shoot themselves in the head without causing severe harm, it might not necessarily be a negative occurrence. Upon healing, the resulting loosening of the tightly packed brain might lead to enhanced intellect. Known cases exist where head injuries have actually resulted in individuals becoming more intellectually alert than they were before. The nature of the human being is undoubtedly the most complex facet in the physically perceptible world. Understanding the totality of a person demands the perspective I've been outlining. We've observed that in the human form as it stands before us, the functioning of the head relies to a degree on the proper connection of the etheric body to it. If the etheric body becomes unbound or liberated, abnormal activity may ensue. The ordinary organization of the human senses and brain nerves allows the etheric body to maintain a normal relationship with the usual environment. The specific connection between the etheric body and the head shapes a person into a human being like all others in their existence between birth and death in the physical world. If we were solely reliant on the standard connection between our etheric body and our head, all individuals would be identical, lacking a way to feel connected with the immortal part of our being. Our head facilitates the experiences we encounter in life between birth and death through our senses and brain nerves. Contemplate this in relation to what I've discussed regarding the transition of the head across reincarnations. What constitutes our head in this lifetime was once our body in a past incarnation, and what currently comprises our body will transform into our head in our forthcoming incarnation. We grasp this connection with our enduring essence that transcends all births and deaths, even though lacking the insights of spiritual science. This understanding often remains a matter of belief. Our comprehension of this link is made possible through our head, but it's only achievable because we possess the spinal cord system as an organ of our astral body. It's within this system that notions and sentiments are forged, fostering our connection with our enduring, super-individual aspect. All that we possess solely for this span between birth and death is bestowed upon us through the earthly, solid element within our organism. On prior occasions, I've highlighted that there's very little of the solid component in our constitution, with about 95% comprising fluid, a pillar of fluid. A human being essentially exists as a pillar of water, with a mere 5% constituted by solid elements, yet it's only this solid aspect that carries our everyday thoughts in our physical life. Our understanding of our super-personal essence, on the other hand, stems from our immersion in the fluid aspect with its rhythmic pulsation. This fluid aspect and its pulsating nature are closely tied to the spinal system, predominantly regulating this fluid aspect and its rhythm. The correlation between these concepts and certain phenomena I've previously elaborated upon, such as the undulating flow of fluid between the abdomen and the brain, requires further discussion, which we'll delve into on another occasion, as it might deviate too much from today's focus. Presently, due to the human being containing the fluid aspect within, there's a link with their super-personal aspect. However, this fluid element also shapes one's distinct personality. If we were purely heads, our thoughts and feelings would be uniform, but because we possess hearts and the fluid elements like blood within us, our individuality emerges. Through this element, the hierarchy of the angeloi can influence our being, engaging with us via the fluid aspect. There exists a third avenue through which our being can be influenced, one that operates even in the harmonious interplay of the higher components with the ganglionic system. This pathway involves the airy element and its impacts on us through the act of breathing. This process is intricate and multifaceted, affected by various factors like the location of our breath, the quantity of oxygen, humidity, sunlight, and more. It's the domain of the archangeloi, the archangels, who engage with us through the airy element. All that emanates from the hierarchy of the archangeloi, both those who have evolved as expected and those lagging behind, exerts its influence through the ganglionic system. The folk spirits, integral members of the hierarchy of the archangeloi, also operate through the organs linked to the ganglionic system. This interconnectedness elucidates why nationality operates in a manner so distant from conscious awareness, often exhibiting a somewhat enigmatic influence. Additionally, for the reasons I've highlighted, it holds a profound association with all things linked to a specific locality. This tight bond stems from the fact that the local climate significantly shapes the functioning of the hierarchy of the archangeloi, far more intimately than one might initially conceive. Climate essentially embodies the effects exerted on the human being through the air we breathe. Discussing the ganglionic system sheds light on how the impulses stemming from the collective spirit of a people operate within the depths of the human unconscious. Surprisingly, belonging to a particular nation shares a fundamental organic basis, the ganglionic system, with the sexual element. It might seem tangential, but the association becomes clearer when considering that one's national affiliation is predetermined at birth, as one's body gestates within a mother who herself belongs to a specific nation. This biological fact creates an inherent link between nationality and the bodily systems. These hidden foundational connections highlight how issues of nationality intertwine with those of sexuality at a profound soul level. It's intriguing to note the parallel ways in which these impulses manifest in life. Observing human behavior, one can discern a striking resemblance between how individuals express themselves erotically and how they exhibit a connection to their nationality. This observation is not a judgment on either aspect. It merely reflects the undeniable realities as they exist. The stirring of nationalistic fervour, especially when it remains deeply embedded in the unconscious, resembles the arousal experienced in sexual contexts. It's crucial not to veil these similarities by attributing nobility to emotional illusions tied to national sentiments, while casting sexual feelings in a less favourable light. The truth lies in acknowledging these phenomena for what they are, as I've described them to you, devoid of subjective evaluations or biases. Understanding the complexities of human nature reveals a curious point of agreement among individuals when it comes to matters concerning the head. In the realm of the head, everyone shares common ground. If we were comprised solely of heads, communication and comprehension among us would be seamless. It might sound peculiar to imagine a world of mere heads, but the diversity of human experiences often leads us to articulate such paradoxes. I once encountered an esteemed Austrian poet deeply concerned about the increasing intellectualization of humanity. He feared that people might become so intellectually inclined that their physical bodies would diminish, leaving behind only walking heads. This sentiment might seem extreme, yet it underscores a worry about the disproportionate development of intellect over other bodily faculties. However, understanding matters associated with the spinal system presents more significant challenges to mutual understanding. This is where conflicts often arise regarding worldviews, religious beliefs, and anything associated with the superpersonal aspects of existence. Additionally, contemporary societal discord isn't limited to external conflicts, but encompasses internal battles articulated through hate against hate, an inner struggle that isn't necessarily reflected in external conflicts. Recognizing these aspects of human complexity is crucial for humanity's way forward. Only by comprehending the intricate nature of humans can we hope to navigate the chaos that currently engulfs us. Tomorrow we'll delve deeper into this chaotic scenario. Nevertheless, it's vital that our pursuit of understanding human complexities be driven by an impersonal perspective, devoid of personal biases or subjective inclinations. This impersonal mood is crucial for objective analysis and the pursuit of meaningful solutions. Human history often showcases less benign moods that extend beyond personal struggles, encompassing collective egoism evident in certain groups or societies. When delving into occult knowledge, one encounters instances where this knowledge isn't employed altruistically, as observed in our recent discussions. Understanding the intricacies of human nature unveils connections between individual attributes and the broader interactions between people, whether on a personal level or within the various groupings throughout human evolution. Previously, I mentioned the utilization of occult knowledge by secret brotherhoods to steer events toward outcomes serving their specific group interests rather than broader human welfare. These brotherhoods held particular views on the structuring of Europe and sought means to influence these structural changes. Today, I intend to share something not yet revealed publicly, merely to offer a glimpse of what might become known in the future, akin to the foretelling of Austria's division, as outlined in the Entente's note to President Wilson. What's publicly disclosed merely constitutes a fraction of the whole. It enters the public domain when deemed opportune, withholding the rest. My intention in relaying this isn't politically driven or meant to incite concerns, but solely to present facts. These exist within certain circles globally. I aim to provide a rough sketch of a part of the envisioned future map of Europe devised by these secret brotherhoods. To avoid protracting this discussion excessively, the sketch I offer will be approximate, reflecting the proposed restructuring envisioned by these secretive societies for Europe at some undetermined point in the future. These contemplations delved into the formulation of a Southern European Balkan Confederation, envisioned as a barrier against Russian influence. Western perspectives regarded Russianism as an opposing force, one necessitating perpetual resistance. The proposal aimed to unify the Kingdom of Italy with the Balkan and Southern Slavic regions of Austria, constituting a substantial portion of the Apennine Peninsula, the Italian-speaking segment of Switzerland, the southern area of Austria, Croatia, Slavonia, Dalmatia, and the northern reaches of Greece. This envisioned confederation also encompassed Hungary and the Danube estuary, comprising the Balkan Confederation. Eastward lay the territories associated with Russia on a broader scale. The mapped programme emphatically stressed that regardless of Poland's actions, it was imperative in the context of world history that the entire nation be reintegrated into the Russian Empire. The plan explicitly stated that Poland, encompassing present-day Prussian regions, had to be reintegrated into the Russian Empire. The programme visualised the Russian Empire encompassing contemporary Poland, extending into Galicia and reaching beyond the Slovaks, forming a peninsula-like extension into Bukovina. France was outlined, originating at the Rhine estuary and extending across the territory to the Rhine and the French-speaking area of Switzerland, bordered by the Pyrenees. Remarkably, scant attention was directed toward the Scandinavian peoples, implying an extended period of autonomy. The remaining territories comprised German-speaking Switzerland, Germany, and the German parts of Austria. These regions were designated within this domain. The delineated sections corresponded, more or less, to the perceived influence of the British Empire. Holland, Belgium, the coastline, Portugal, Spain, the southern region of Italy, leaving discussion about the islands for another occasion, and the southern part of Greece. The illustration presented here represents a refined depiction compared to our earlier attempt on the board yesterday. It notably echoes the portrayal discerned in the note from the Entente to Wilson, encapsulating an idealised structure for Europe. I reiterate emphatically, this isn't intended to sway or influence anyone. My aim is merely to exhibit the envisioned European structure, a framework that traces back to the 90s or possibly even the 80s, and was disseminated within certain secretive societies. There were always clear rationales behind the desire to configure Europe in this manner. The methodologies, grounded in rationality, for attaining this envisioned European construct were more or less expounded upon. We'll delve into this tomorrow. It's crucial to emphasise that these details aren't fabricated. They were potent drives within numerous circles, aspirations deemed necessary and pivotal, demanding earnest endeavours. I'm fully aware of how easily objections could arise, asserting the impropriety of discussing such matters in this specific context. However, my intention isn't to incite or craft a foretelling picture, neither for the warring nations nor for the neutrals. I remain detached from these agendas. My aim in discussing this is to elucidate the impulses prevailing within those circles. What we witness here is a future prospect shaped by endeavours intending to serve the selfish interests of a select group. Those perturbed by the potential disappearance of certain elements might consider that we are fundamentally addressing the collective tasks of humanity. It's evident that elements born out of a group's self-interest aren't necessarily fateful or predestined. What I perceive as truly crucial is the stance of evading reality, of refusing to acknowledge uncomfortable truths simply because they may incite unease. While it's understandable that discussing such matters might unsettle those striving earnestly for neutrality, our foundational understanding should enable us to transcend this unease. We should possess the maturity to confront the actual happenings in the world. I express these thoughts assuming your sensibility in perceiving them in the intended light. And that's a wrap for today's learning journey. Thank you so much for joining us and experiencing all the excitement. If you had as much fun as we did, don't forget to give that like button a big thumbs up and subscribe.